So we can go ahead and commence.
Okay.
It's
Would you like-
6:07.
Mhm.
Mr. Campos, if you can assist us with the roll call.
Yes. So we have Mr. Raul Reyes,
Present.
Mr. John Beckelheimer, Dr. Gaskins, Dr. Gaskins, Miss Angie Tellez,
President.
Mr. Robert Tellez,
Present.
Ms. Lucy Morris.
Present.
Mr. Chair, you do have a quorum to start the meeting.
Okay, if we can go ahead and continue with the next agenda item.
We have the approval of minutes.
Was everybody able to review the minutes? I believe they were provided in the previous email.
Yes, I was, Mr. Chairperson, and I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Mr. Reyes and seconded by Mrs. Tellez. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, I'll move to the previous question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I believe we still have some time before citizen comments can be submitted. Was there any submitted? Is that now, Mr. Campos?
At the moment, we have not received any citizen comments. We still have approximately 6 minutes left. I will notify you if we do receive any comments by 6:15.
I believe the next item would be the discussion approval of the proposed schedule for the next calendar year.
Yes, so I'm sharing the proposed timeline for the application for the 2022-2023 third-party funding process. So how it happens, we do the third-party funding the committee has its portion, and the actual process at the office here in community development would be another schedule. So we are proposing both schedules to the committee for approval this evening. So what we do is we do 2 LMTADs. We do the first LMTAD March 20th, and that's when applications open for the new year 2022-2023. The second LMTAD would go out on March 27th. Then we do have a mandatory training for both general fund and hotel motel recipients. That it's going to be happening March 31st, one at 9, one at 10:30. We also have the application deadline, which is scheduled for April 18th at 4 p.m. We also have the time for the staff to review the applications for completeness before they are actually submitted to the committee for review between April 19th and April 29th. And then the EBIT system access for the committee members will commence on April 29th. And all these dates are subject to approval from the committee. This is the timeline that we ran last time. Everything ran smoothly. We didn't have any issues. And then we also have the committee application review timeline, which is you guys will have access to the EBIT system on April 29th. And we will present to you guys the actual hotel motel applications on May 4th. So the committee will actually have time to review the applications even before the staff presents them either in person or in a WebEx meeting. On March 18th, we would like for the committee to submit scores at least by May 13th, so we can have time to present to you the scores that you guys submitted, and so we can go ahead and approve those scores and then do the introduction of the general fund applications. After the May 18th meeting, we'll have the June 1st meeting, and that's when we, as staff, will present the general fund scores. And on June 15th, we'll have the next meeting to obviously do the final recommendations to make the final approval. So for both scores, we would like for the committee to submit their scores for hotel motel by May 13th at 5 p.m. and the general fund scores by May 27th. So we can go ahead and have all the final scores by the June 15th meeting and present to you all the recommendations as well. And that's when you guys, on the June 15th, will go ahead and do the final funding amounts and stuff like that, so we can go ahead and present it for the budget process to council.
I just have one question, if I may, Mr. Chairperson. With respects to the first portion, Mr. Campos, that is set and approved by City Council, correct?
The third-party funding application timeline, that could
Mhm.
be decided by you guys.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
All right. But all right. I don't know if any of the other members of the committee have any questions. If this is something that we did last year, it looks feasible and appropriate, and I'll make a motion to adopt the timeline schedule for both third-party funding application and the review and scoring of the applications.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Been moved by Mr. Reyes and seconded by Dr. Gaskins to approve the proposed application timeline. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, I'll go ahead and move to the previous question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion approved.
Okay, so now we move to item number 6, which is presentation and discussion from nonprofit organizations on the last 2020-2021 performance measures and outcomes, with possible questions by committee members. And this is where the presentations will start. And if you guys did not receive any funding between the fiscal year 2020-2021 due to COVID, you will present on the last time that you received funding and how those funds helped your organization. And we will start with Princess Pocahontas.
I'm sorry to interrupt. The organizations presenting today, they all received funding?
Yes, these all 3 organizations received funding last year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Yolanda Villarreal. I am the president of the Princess Pocahontas Council. And thank you for having us this evening to go ahead and present to you the generous amount that the city of Laredo has been awarding us for the past couple of years. Joining us this evening is also Ms. Claudia Dovalina Guzman, which is our first vice president. And on behalf of the council, I would like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to present to you some of the events that we do as a council throughout the year. Our court this year consists of 12 young men and 12 young ladies that from local high schools. So we do have community involvement there. Our organization takes pride in working with the youth of our community, not only to present them in our pageants, but also to prepare them and have them feel the love, instill the love of our community. They do participate in different community service projects that we do throughout the year, and we like to get them involved with all levels of community services available for them. I know Ms. Ovalina is here, and she will go ahead and discuss with you the different events that we host as the Princess Pocahontas Council. Ms. Ovalina Guzman, you want to go ahead and take over?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for having us here today to present information regarding our organization. First of all, I do want to start off by saying that we are governed by a board of directors. There is a group of 20 ladies that make up our executive committee, starting with our president, Ms. Yolanda Villarreal, and then I'm first vice president, and then we have the other officers, as you can see in the picture, a total of 20 members. We do meet on a monthly basis. We have our board meetings. We have minutes that we take. We do follow Robert's Rules of Orders in order to conduct our meetings. We share old business, new business. We do discuss any future projects. We also allow information to be brought to the board by any of our members that may want to share information regarding our community service projects, and things that the children can participate in. We do have those minutes readily available to submit at any time for anyone that may ask for those minutes. And we do have these meetings, as I mentioned, on a monthly basis. We do at times also have special called meetings or emergency board meetings when a situation may arise that we need to attend to. If we can go ahead and go on to the next slide. So Princess Pocahontas has a longstanding history. The organization does have a longstanding history in our community. And of course, Princess Pocahontas and the participation of Princess Pocahontas in the Washington's birthday celebration festivities dates back all the way to 1898. She is a symbol of natural beauty and simplicity, and she epitomizes the virtues of those first Americans. Dressed in traditional costume and accompanied by her court of Indian princesses, she is presented with the key to the city, and that happens during the parade. And she does ride on horseback in the parade, accompanied by all of the other court members. So that is a really, really fun time for our students that are participating, and it's really a fun time for the parents and all of the visitors that come to see these students in the parade. And so that is a really exciting time. It is important to note that there is that special significance, which is just a piece of the celebration. But moving on, what I wanted to share is that the council itself was formed in 1980, and it was started by our founders, Ms. Velia Uribe, and she wanted for Princess Pocahontas to play a role in the annual celebration. Part of that reason was to support and enhance the role of Pocahontas in her court in the Washington's birthday celebration, to provide greater opportunity for the community to participate more fully in the celebration by sponsoring additional youth-oriented activities. And part of this is that we do have high school representation from all of our local high schools. All of them are invited to participate and to have a representative so that all children have the opportunity to participate, even if their mothers are not members of the organization. On a given year, we have anywhere from 3 to even as high as 6 or 7 members from our local high schools that are, being presented. And then we also have some additional ladies who are sponsored. We do have situations sometimes where a high school may have 2 representatives and they really have a hard time making that decision between who is actually going to represent the high school. And so our organization will reach out to the other person who was not selected by the high school to offer them the opportunity to come in as a sponsored princess. The other item was, and the other reason why Ms. Velia Uribe had this vision, was to revise and promote interest in the customs and legends of the American Indian culture. In 40 years, these goals have been fulfilled in an extraordinary manner, and Pocahontas has taken a very special place in the annual celebration and is the center of the pageant, which has gained fame for the color and uniqueness which it embodies each year. If any of you have ever been to one of the pageants, you will see that there is just a spectacular display of costumes, a very intricate beading, a lot of detailed, and along with a storyline that shares stories of our Native Americans and their past, their culture. The different storylines, have ranged from the different types of herbs that were used during that time, from different types of stones that, the Native Americans may have treasured and valued, to sharing of stories, that were passed on from generation to generation. So that's pretty much what the pageant encompasses. We can go ahead and go on. So third-party funding, we're very, very appreciative to the City of Laredo, the Community Development Department, and the third-party funding committee, because we are the proud recipients of $10,000 from your organization. The cost of our pageant, this is what the third-party funding helps us with. That is utilized towards the cost of production for the pageant. The pageant is a full theatrical performance. It does entail sound, audio, light, stage. There's a little bit of everything, in the pageant. I will say that during COVID, it has been a little bit more challenging. And the fact that we do not have the use of the Civic Center anymore as they're transitioning over at the Civic Center with, construction and so on, we've had to get a little bit more creative. Currently, our pageant this week is going to be held at the Casablanca Ballroom. And I know we will be having a dress rehearsal on Friday. Anybody here, you're more than welcome to stop by our dress rehearsal and, see what it entails so that you can actually see the actual setup, the stage, the background, and all the audiovisual equipment that goes into the actual performance itself. You can continue with the next slide. So our annual pageant does take place in February as part of the Washington's birthday festivities. It is a combination of audio, video, lights, stage props, and it features theatrical performances from the youth of our community. They are wearing their costumes with those handmade designs brought to life by the detailed beading, the fringe, and other accessories. Each couple that is presented represents a different Native American tribe, and together they share historical information about the tribe as they pay tribute by creating awareness about the tribe's history. So you can see some pictures there. These are two of the main events. The top one is the pageant itself, and that is from our pageant that was held in June. That was a delay due to COVID. So our events were delayed last year, a little bit, but our pageant traditionally is in February, as the one that will be coming up this Saturday. Our actual pageant is on Saturday, February the 12th, with that dress rehearsal taking place on the 11th. And then you can see in the lower picture, the parade. The parade is just a big highlight. And I do want to mention that both of these events draw a lot of visitors, from outside of Laredo. A lot of our families here have a lot of families outside of Laredo that do come in for the pageant and then come in, 2 weeks later or a week later at times for the parade. We can go ahead and continue. And we also just wanted to share that we do have our court members participating in community involvement. From the moment that they are announced in April, they start off with a Relay for Life. They're very active in that, in the Relay for Life for the American Cancer Association, and then followed by multiple events. I know we have helped also in the past with the Sister Cities, hosted by the city of Laredo, and I know that there's several other events that they do participate in. There's also the gathering of toys. They do gather toys from different types of events that we have. Sometimes there are like the monthly luncheon. Sometimes these young boys and girls host parties. And during the parties, instead of, bring a gift, instead of bringing like a gift for the actual person having the party, they bring toys. And so then these toys are distributed to our community. We've been working with some of our local churches to distribute those. We've also had blanket drives for the elderly, donations of toiletries also for Casa Misericordia, and many other events. And I know also in the past, I know this hasn't been done in recent years, but Princess Pocahontas and the chief would probably represent the city of Laredo back in Austin, Texas, and in Washington, D.C. with our leaders from our city council and our city of Laredo during Laredo Day. So that was a very, really good opportunity for the students to experience that. We can continue. Now, the impact on hotels, motels, and revenue for the city of Laredo. Well, during our main event, especially that February pageant, countless visitors made up of family and friends of the participating court members do travel to Laredo to witness the spectacular pageantry, beautiful costumes, and to support their family members. I will mention that we did have one of our dads just mentioned to us that he has about 30 family members coming in. And he said, you know what, they're not just coming for the pageant. He goes, like this weekend, he goes, they'll get here on Thursday. He goes, and they're not leaving until Sunday after the Super Bowl. He says, so I'm hosting these families all these days. So, we're thinking that, that's great. It's a great for them to come and visit our city. And of course, our community benefits from these visitors in the form of hotel, motel occupancy and the local sales tax that's also generated by the overnight visits at the local hotels, motels, the dining, the shopping, and other travel expenses, such as gas and snacks from the local convenience stores. You can go ahead and continue. And then in closing, we do want to just a special thank you on behalf of our organization and our board of directors, our president, Ms. Yolanda Villarreal, and myself, first vice president, Claudia Dovalina Guzman. We want to thank the city of Laredo, our mayor, Pete Sines, our council members, the community development department, and to you all, the third party funding committee, for considering our organization and for granting us this $10,000 that we definitely utilize and, are just very grateful for that opportunity and for your consideration. Thank you all.
Thank you. Was there any questions from any of the board members? I'll open the floor. If there's no other questions, thank you guys for the presentation. Mr. Campos,
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Dolina, and thank you, Ms. Villarreal. So now we're going to go on to the next presentation, and we have Casa de Misericordia, and we do have two representatives from the organization, which will start their presentation.
Good evening. Thank you for that. I was on mute. I'm going to take the opportunity to share my computer screen and share the presentation from my computer. And just, we wanted to thank you for this opportunity to share what we do here at Casa Misericordia, especially with the funding from the third party funding from the city of Laredo. Where's the start slideshow? I am Karen Martinez. I'm the shelter manager data specialist, but I do grant writing and grant reporting. And I have with me Ms. Nelly Venegas, and she is the position that is supported by this grant, and she'll speak a little bit more about herself later on. We have been receiving city third-party funding for over 22 years. During this current cycle and the previous few cycles, we have received $15,000 to support the salary and benefits of the counselor. This is less than 1% of CASA's entire budget and about 5% of our total counseling budget, but it is a huge help for what we do here for the community in providing victims of domestic violence with a place where they can go to receive services and learn how to be safe and secure in their lives. As mentioned, the counselor, Nelly, provides crisis and support services to victims of domestic violence in our community. And this includes safety planning, helping them plan how they're going to be safe. Is a police report important or not? She provides crisis intervention, information referral, case management services. And these are available to not only individual survivors who come into the shelter, but anyone who is in crisis or needs help for these type of services. They can walk in to our education center and she will be available to help them. She has a master's in social work and is licensed with the state of Texas. And she has 12 years of experience in work providing crisis management and support services. During this past year, grant year 2020 and 2021, through the support of this funding, Ms. Venegas was able to serve 274 adult victims of domestic violence. She was able to assist 269 survivors with safety planning, 24 survivors with counseling, 269 survivors with advocacy, intervention, case management services, and 146 survivors were provided with information and referrals to community services, programs, and resources. By providing these services, of those who came to CASA, 99% of survivors who received services from Ms. Venegas reported that they felt safer and more secure because of the services they received from CASA, that they were more aware of, 98% reported that they were more aware of community resources, and 94% reported that they felt less isolated and alone. And this is important because of research that has been done with survivors of domestic violence to increase their sense of well-being. These are some of the services that they request or need to feel better and more secure, and therefore increase their well-being with themselves and their families. I'll turn it over to Ms. Venegas.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for allowing us to present to you today about the work that CASA does for our community and our clients. I have been a social worker here at Casa Misericordia since 2020. But I started my role here since 2009. I did my internship with my bachelor's degree. I was hired 2010 for case management at Mercy Clinic, which is a sister ministry. Been with Mercy ever since. And then I went 2017 to get my master's degree and just had to come back home here to my Mercy family with the Sisters of Mercy. So the services I provide to our clients here and our residents at the shelter, like Ms. Karen said, our crisis intervention, counseling, I have many roles that I use with each individual client, which crisis intervention, I believe it's the most important because you're addressing the immediate needs of the client when they come into our shelter or to our education center as well. We address either if it's an emotional need, mental need, physical distress, if they're, were physically hurt. And this is done to prevent, any potential long-term trauma to the clients and to the victims. And a crisis, varies from client to client. It refers to the trauma they faced, either emotionally, psychologically, physical. their victimization status as well, depending, on case by case. It also, it's grief, mental illness, medical relationship, whatever that client brings at the moment, you start where they are and you address those immediate needs. So you give them a sense of safety and, try to address those emotional needs that they're facing. Well, also another role that is very important to address the trauma, to address their emotional and psychological well-being is the counseling we provide. And this is just to provide support and guidance to them to address, whether it's housing issues, whether it's their safety issues, anything that is going on with the family at that moment. They make the choice of what they want to work on first, and we'll just guide them, give them options, and they'll decide with our support and our guidance. Another important thing that we do is we connect them to community resources. So using the advocate role, the broker role, help them identify resources in our community that will help them deal, either it's housing issues, whether it's utility assistance, whether it's safety, if they need protective orders, peace bonds, safety planning. We help them, move forward as survivors, not as victims anymore, and try for them to become independent and are able to utilize these services later on their own. We also provide education, and this is on the types of abuse, the cycle of abuse, safety planning, like we mentioned, community resources, the services that are out there in the community. And this is, some of the brief roles that I play, but we're here for every client that comes in. We're a shelter that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So there is always someone available for them. I'll move on to one of our survivor stories. And this is just one of many of the ladies that come in through our shelter. We have Miss Jane Doe. She's a young female, Hispanic female in her early 30s. She came in with a diagnosis of chronic depression. She came to our shelter in 2021 along with her young 3-year-old son with special needs. She disclosed that she faced domestic violence from her spouse, all types of abuse. It was physical, emotional, financial, sexual abuse. And she was here in our shelter for maybe approximately 3 to 4 weeks. She had no control of her life or her household environment. The aggressor would make all decisions for her. She was not able to do anything on her own because she was not aware of all the resources available to her. I am glad she decided to come into our education center and seek help by one of her friends who had been here previously. So she reached out to her and she was able to come into our shelter. We provided education on what domestic violence was, and she was very eager to learn about domestic violence, its effects, the services that were available to her, resources available to her in our community. So she was provided with counseling, psychoeducation on domestic violence, safety planning, legal advocacy, the community resource planning, referrals. We provided a lot of empowerment, motivational interviewing, so she could get the courage and to do things on her own. She was referred to multiple agencies in our community, like Laredo Housing Authority, Gateway Community Health Center, Texas Health and Human Services, so she could get benefits for her and her son. Webb County Justice of the Peace for a peace bond, legal aid for assistance with the divorce, child custody, child support, also with Catholic Charities for rent assistance, Texas Workforce for employment, skills training, and childcare services. And then finally, she had her own vehicle, but she did not know how to drive. And this was one of her main focuses because with a vehicle, she was able to move around in our community and search for resources. So we went ahead and assisted for a referral to Gregory's driving school for lessons and for her to obtain her driver's license. She dedicated her days here at the shelter to making phone calls, scheduling appointments to the referrals and assistance, and attending to her appointments. We're happy to say that she was able to plan for her safety and security. She obtained a new phone for safety concerns. She was able to get a divorce. She was granted a peace bond, child support. She found a medical home. She received WIC, Medicaid, and SNAP benefits for her and her child. She found stable housing. She was providing rent assistance, utility assistance. We provided an electricity deposit waiver. She was able to find employment and childcare for her son and also therapy for her son. And, she continues to participate in our program till this day. And she just expresses her gratitude for allowing us to journey with her during her most vulnerable time. So like I mentioned, this is just one of many stories of the ladies that come through our shelter, and we are happy that you provide, funding to our ministry to be able to help our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. I'll now open the floor to the board members if they have any questions. Okay, if there's no questions,
Thank
we'll
you.
go ahead and thank you so much for your time, Mr. Campos.
Thank you. Thank you guys, the family of Casa Misericordia. You guys do amazing work for the women of Laredo, and thank you for your continuance. And as long as you guys are open, a lot of women will feel safe and secure by the counseling that you guys provide to them. So now we do have the Boys and Girls Club. I will be sharing my screen once again for their presentation. So Mr. Garza, whenever you want to start, we are ready.
Hi, I'm Joe Garza. I'm the sports director here at the Boys and Girls Club of Laredo. We'd like to thank the City of Laredo and the third-party funding for once again assisting us as you have throughout the years. This year, as it was for many of our local organizations and organizations around the world, quite frankly, it was quite difficult due to COVID. Typically, the third-party funding on our end comes into our sports department. We do have one of the largest sports leagues in the state and probably the nation. On a typical year, we have upwards of 750, 800 basketball teams alone. We also have 140 flag football teams, 140 volleyball teams, and then we hold a huge track event with most of the elementary schools here in town. So it's on a regular year. This year, unfortunately, we weren't able to go through all that. Actually, we haven't been able to really complete a full year of sports since 2020. But we have been getting back out there. We have been getting back out on the court. We did have our flag football and our volleyball leagues. Although they weren't participated in as usual due to, of course, concerns due to COVID. We were able to have them. We were able to crown 14 division champions throughout the various grades that we have. I believe it was something like 70 teams per division. We're able to have our little kids basketball, and if you've never been to one of those games, we invite anyone and everyone to come out here. And by little kids, I mean our pre-K 4 through first graders. Especially the pre-K 4 games, they are a joy to watch. It's just absolutely funny how young these kids are, but they grasp the game, and you see their development from game to game. So to where sometimes the kids are hanging off the goals and running to their moms at the beginning of the season. At the end, we have games that score in the 20s and 30s, if you would believe that. The Boys and Girls Club as a whole here in Laredo has been around since 1946. We are in our 75th year of existence here in Laredo. Of course, we are here to promote health, social, educational, and character development to the youth of Laredo. We currently service 8 kids ages 6 through 12, at our 3 locations, the Benavides Boys and Girls Club, which has been around the longest, located here in downtown Laredo. For those of you familiar with Laredo, everybody's gonna know it by the one that's in front of the Selena mural. We also have our Santa Maria location, which is our northwest. That's on Santa Maria Avenue. That we've had that one since the 70s, if I'm not mistaken. I know my dad grew up there, so it's rich in history. We also have our Lamar Bruni Vergara location located in the Presidentes area. We receive about $50,000 in third-party funding from the city, and this is just a breakdown how we were able to spend the money this year. As I said, our building, if you can go ahead to the next slide, our building has been around since 1946 in our possession, but before that it was a USO. I'm led to believe that it still had a lot of the original plumbing. During the first quarter of last year, late in the first quarter, we received a water bill that was astronomical. And when we reached out to the city, we found out that usually something like this is due to a leak. We called various plumbers that came out with sonar equipment to look for it, just due to the thickness of the base of our building. They weren't able to find the leak, but we knew it was there. So the solution was to put in all new plumbing for one side of our building. So that was the majority of our first quarter spending. If you go ahead to the next slide, it continued into the second quarter, just because we realized we didn't have water yet in areas that we don't use year round, that we typically only use in the summer, which is our pool area and the changing rooms there for the kiddos. Typically, we only use those in the summer, so we had to run water that way too and into our pool. Apart from that, we also got these brand new energy efficient lights. Up until then, our gyms still had those humongous hanging lights that I don't believe that they even make those bulbs anymore. So we were getting lights going out left and right. We upgraded to these brand new LED lights. They're state of the art. It's a lot of like what the school districts have. And you see the difference when you walk into the building. If you want to move on to the next slide. I don't think anything's coming out there, but I can pull up mine. In the third quarter, school got, our kiddos started coming back into our building, and we did spend a lot of that money on tutoring. A lot of these kids were still having trouble, still recovering from the year-long online learning. And a lot of them still need help with their homework. It's a service that we offer no matter what, but the funds were allocated towards helping our pay for our tutors and for our staff to help tutor the kids. If you would like to go on to the last slide. It continued with the tutoring into the fourth quarter, but one of the big upgrades that we were able to get is we finally got padding all around our walls. If any of you have ever been to the Boys and Girls Club, you know that everything around here is stone. We had padding that we pretty much made years ago. I started here about 12 years ago. That's about the time we made those padding, I guess, boards. And they were just sort of leaned up against the wall. We got a professional company out of San Antonio to come in. They did what we couldn't do in 10 years, they did in about 3 days. And you can see the difference that padding makes. It's 6-foot padding, so we're able to still host of course, our little ones. And just like we wanted them that high because last year we began hosting the All-Star game for basketball and for volleyball with kiddos from our local high schools making up the teams. So wanted to make sure that they were nice and safe too. So once again, thank you to the city of Laredo. We look forward to continuing our partnership with you guys. And next year, hopefully we'll have our full sports league.
Thank you, Mr. Garza, for your presentation. I believe that's the last one for today. If there's any questions from the board, I'll open up the floor. If there's no other questions, Mr. Campos?
Thank you, Mr. Garza, for your presentation. That will conclude our presentations for the evening. Like always, we will schedule presentations monthly with different organizations to cover all the whole tumult of the general fund recipients. Thank you all who participated this evening, and good luck to the Princess Pocahontas on the event this weekend. Casa Misericordia, thank you, and continue the great work you guys continue doing. And Mr. Garza with Boys and Girls Club continue providing tutoring, sports programs for the kids, and which are the future of Laredo.
If there's no other business to be heard, or is there anything else on the agenda? If
The agenda, the next item on the agenda would be to adjourn.
yes, the adjournment. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved by Dr. Gaskins to adjourn. I'll second the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed signify by saying nay. Motion passes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.